Hello and welcome back to Beyond Resistance Pod, where we share hard-won insights to build blue power in red communities and start winning. I'm Sarah Schultz.
And I'm Jennifer Austin.
Hey, Jennifer, what are you fired up about today?
So I am fired up about, it's kind of similar along the lines of things that I've recently been fired up about, but just like people, women, people out there doing the thing. I was on Threads and this lady posted, and I'm only getting like the back end of the story, so I didn't see her do the original post or whatever, but she had apparently posted, hey, I live in such and such a place. I'm a blue dot in a red area, and I am tired of being a blue dot in a red area. Is there anybody else around me? And she ended up getting like 80 people to show up and have like an event of some kind. And they talked and laughed and made friends and compared stories. And they're going to get together again. And they're starting to talk about actions that they can take. And I was just like, oh my gosh, you have no idea. This is the best thing ever. I was so excited because that's literally what happened in Midland after Trump won in 2016.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how the Women of Michigan Action Network got started. Yeah. That's how you ended up running for office. That's how the Democratic Party in Midland became, the powerhouse that it is. So like, this is the start of something. And then I was like reading through the comments, and it was more people being like, I did the same thing in blah, blah year, and we flipped our city, or we flipped our district, or, I've done that, or, oh, I really wish I could do that. And then people being like, do it. And you have no idea how great it is. And so, yeah, I was just, my little organizing blue power building heart was just pitter pattering with so much excitement.
That's so amazing. Did you send them a link to our blueprint?
I did. I said, I like, quote tweeted it or whatever. I don't know. It's Threads. I guess it's called a thread, but it seems so weird. I just want to call everything a post or a tweet. I don't like separate names for everything. But yeah, I quote tweeted it and said like that, we did the same thing and blah, blah, blah. So that's on our page. And then I commented and told her specifically, like, this is what we did. That's what our pod's about. We have this blueprint if you want to look at it. So yeah, I'm hoping that it helps people because that's the whole purpose of what we're doing.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. And like, we keep talking about this. It is the purpose of what we're doing. And this concept of the blue dot, like that gets me, right? Because
the myth of the blue dot.
Exactly. Like this idea that like, that just was so pervasive for me. I thought I was a blue dot the morning after the 2016 election, right? Mm-hmm. And I literally I had only a few years before moved to our town. Like I was not involved in anything other than like going to the progressive church, but that was really it. Like I had these little babies who I was raising and that's all I could manage. Mm-hmm. And then, I would, sit and yell at the screen during the debates and stuff leading up to the 2016 election. And then the day after, I was like, you know what? This house that I live in is literally the only liberal, progressive, democratic, whatever left side of things label you want to put on us in all of Midland and all of our area. And I always tell the story of like going to the grocery store the next day and just like giving stink eyes to everybody. Because I was just like, I was sure that everybody, who I came encountered over the next forever had voted for this asshole, and like they were, who they were and all the things, and like, and so that idea of being a blue dot is so important to like hold because we know that those things exist. And people have that mindset still, right? Like that was me back in 2016 and we're 10 years later, but people hold that mindset still in really red areas. Mm-hmm. And we know like the purpose of what we do every day on this pod and in all the work that we do out in social media and all the things, the presentations we do across the state of Michigan, all of that is really about helping people who feel like they're that blue dot start to recognize that they're not. Right.
Yeah.
And like the first thing about that is finding your people and not letting like all that despair like fester in the space of loneliness and trying to like find courage and community and starting to build from there. So that's really That's really cool to hear those stories of other blue dots and know that they exist today. It's not a phenomenon that just happened in the 2016 election.
And if you believe you're a blue dot, at the very least, go look at election results for your county or your city
Yeah.
or wherever. Yeah, maybe Trump won your county or won your city, or the Republican always wins. If there's a Democrat that's running against them, say 30,000 people voted for Trump and only 10,000 voted for Harris, that's 10,000 potential friends.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it feels daunting when you're looking at, oh, it's 70-30, 70% of people voted for Trump and 30% voted for Harris, or whatever election you want to look at, just using that as an example. But that's still 10,000 people.
Exactly.
10,000 people.
Yeah. And it's not stagnant. Like we know
No.
that it's 10,000 people today, and through like work and organizing and finding community and making connections and, learning from our blueprint and all of the other things, like you can build on that as well. And even if you're not winning elections right away, you're shifting the ground politically within your area, and you're like legitimizing, the ideals and values that we
Yes.
find on the left side of the political spectrum, which has just rippling effects, well before you see the impact in the elections. So, yeah.
They want you to feel alone.
Yep.
And showing your values to people. It's not just about voting or who you vote for, but like showing what you care about and your values to people allows them to either express their own because they agree with you, or respect yours. And maybe that's a path to them being on the same side as you.
Yeah, that could be a start of a conversation. Yeah, that's awesome. I love those stories from across the country about folks who are starting to build that blue power. It's worth being fired up about. And here in Midland, what I'm fired up about is our continued work in that direction. So, we had a meeting last night, a membership meeting of the local Democratic Party. It was literally not a place to sit anywhere in the space.
Every seat was taken.
We see that, big statewide candidates make stops in our area, which was something kind of unheard of, years ago, before we were really able to do the work that we've been able to do to put Midland right on the map, right? And that's the long game of this work. And so that's really exciting. And we show up and we are unapologetic about who we are and the fact that we are legitimate and that we, deserve equal time in our community. And all of that work has culminated and continues to build in real election results. So that Midland that, used to be very red is now reliably blue. So that's definitely worth being fired up about. Here we are sitting in February, us political nerds are thinking about, what happened. Well, for us, we're thinking about a special election in May, and then another, primary election in August, and then the general election in 2026, and what that means. And continuing to build on that momentum is exciting. So, yeah. And what's also exciting is our next conversation. It's with a woman named Erin Petrey, and she's running for the U.S. Congress, and her trending in the blue direction district in the red state of Kentucky. And just talk about how you build that momentum, how you have the conversation with anyone about the things that matter the most to voters, and not fall into those identity politics to really move the needle. It was a good conversation.
It's a very good conversation, and this is the time, people. If you are in what's considered a red district and you want to run as a Democrat, or heck, if no Democrats are running and you want to run as an independent, I don't care. Let's just move that needle, and this is the year to give it a try. And Erin's gonna talk more about her race, and it's really fun. I think you guys are gonna enjoy this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you all, and enjoy the conversation with Erin down in Kentucky.
On today's pod, we have Erin Petrey. She was born and raised in Kentucky and grew up on the family farm. She has a BA in International Affairs and Anthropology and an MA in Diplomacy and International Commerce. She taught English in South Korea during the recession, and then moved on to U.S. diplomacy in D.C. and eventually worked with Amazon. She's worked on renewable energy, healthcare, infrastructure development, business scaling, sustainability, and more than that in the private and public sectors. And she's also been writing and promoting the Kentucky bourbon industry for 15 years. In fact, she's known as the Bourbon Lady. She lives in Kentucky with her rescue dog, Lila, which I love. Doggies are awesome. And she is currently running for Kentucky's 6th U.S. congressional district. Erin, welcome to the pod.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Is there anything that I didn't include in your bio that you really want people to know about?
Yeah, it's funny when I look at when folks look at my resume, they say, "Wait, how old are you?" And I'm like, I just turned 38 a few months ago. And I'm one of these people who let's just say leisure time is something that I spend not exactly in a leisurely way. I am someone who, is always looking for new opportunities to serve my community, to serve causes I care about. And I'm just, I'm very involved wherever I go, whether it's Korea, whether it's Spain, or whether it's right here in Kentucky. So, for me, my entire career has a singular thread, and that is tackling big problems and delivering real results.
You are in good company of people who don't know how to say no and are over ambitious.
I know, right? It's like, Erin, you just got to say no. I'll tell you, I'm not a big New Year's resolution person, but sometimes I do set, goals for the year, right? And usually my goals every single year is to quit one or two things. Because I'm like, I gotta not, because, it's kind of like, when you purchase new clothing, it's like, well, I've got enough clothing already. So if I buy one has to go out.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
My closet is at capacity. So it's one in and one out.
I'm just like, I need more hangers.
I'm like, well, if I get the nice velvet hangers, I can get everything slimmer.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Or the ones that like cascade down. So like, you've got multiple things on one hanger.
Yeah. And now that I think about it, I told my husband the other day, I think we should move because I've never lived in a house where I had a true walk-in closet. So I guess what I'm saying is I need a new house.
Well, it's like I've lived in places where, when I was in Korea, I mean, gosh, I think my entire apartment, kitchen and bathroom was about the size of my little space here. It was pretty small. We're talking like 400 square feet.
Whoa.
And,
wow.
My mom, I remember when she came and visited, she was like, "How do you live in this shoebox?" And then when she came to my apartment in DC, which was 750 square feet, she said, "Oh my gosh, it's so small." And I said, "Mom, listen, you can't fit your stuff to your living space. You have to fit I'm sorry, you have to fit your stuff to your living space, not your living space to your stuff, right?"
Yeah, absolutely.
That is for sure. When we bought a new house, when we moved back to Midland, 1, I wanted a walk-in closet. And 2, I wanted more space. And I was like, oh, isn't this lovely? Our things are just, they're not like all congested. Well, yeah, but now we've lived here for what did I like 9 years, and the place is congested now.
Yeah,
because you just get more stuff.
Yeah, I heard someone
as
say
my dear friend John Barlow, who I've been a close friend since high school, who has moved 8,000 times, and I think is probably the least materialistic person I know. He comes and helps me move, and his philosophy is just toss, 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 get rid of it. And he will yell at me to toss things.
Yeah.
I'm like, I needed this.
Yeah. Moving is a great opportunity to purge those things that you don't need. And those are some good friends who will help you move. So those are friends for life, for sure. I heard of once somebody...
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I said, and that's the kind of representative I want to be in the United States Congress, tossing the things out that we don't need and keeping the things that really move us forward.
Hey,
and
there you go.
Joy.
I think you have a new campaign slogan. You should start putting it on yard signs and things like that.
This part of the government is not sparking joy.
Yeah.
Nope.
Well, and speaking of that, right? So government is wild right now. Politics is absolutely wild right now. I don't have to say that because we all live it literally
Yeah.
every morning when we look at our phones and think, what the hell is
Mhm.
going on now? And I'm just so grateful for folks like you, Erin, and folks across the country for agreeing to step into that chaos and into the arena and do the hard and important work of trying to be a good representative for the actual people and the actual voters who would be your constituents. I wonder if you'd give us some insight into what makes you just want to be part of it all, want to be part of the chaotic mess that is our current politics and government systems right now.
Yeah, I still cringe a little bit when I say that I'm a politician, but I guess by definition I kind of am now. But I like to say that I'm not a politician by nature, but by necessity.
Mm.
I'm not someone who can easily sit around and just let things happen. Um, and my reason for wanting to do this was, in November of 2024, I had a decision to make, which was sit around and complain about things and rage post to social media. I know we've all done it, um, or do something about it. And so I actually started, reaching out to my more politically connected friends here in Kentucky and saying, so what's happening with this seat? I knew Mitch McConnell wasn't going to be running, and Andy Barr, the incumbent, was going to go for that seat. And people just said, there's nobody, there's no clear heir to this seat. And that really bothered me. And even as people kept declaring, I wasn't seeing people who were the kind of leaders that I really wanted to see in Congress, right? People who were progressive, people who were standing up and standing beside people. And also just, I mean, I was the first person in my race who actually came out with real policies. There are
Mm.
still some candidates in this race who don't even talk about policies. And that bothers me, right? I'm like, well, what do you stand for? Because this particular district, I mean, we've been screwed over a lot, right? Because Democrats have never stood a chance in this district since really like 2018 with Amy McGrath. But even then, I think Amy McGrath, even though she spent millions and millions, was still so very centrist. People were like, is she a Republican? Is she a Democrat? We don't know. And so for me, I'm like, I want someone who is an unabashed populist, right? That is where we are in this time right now. We need people to actually fight for the needs of average, everyday people and not be afraid to actually say what they want to do for fear of like isolating the middle. Because at the end of the day, I feel like people have been isolated and they felt left out of the party, which is why now only 27% of people in this country ally themselves with either the Democratic or the Republican Party, and more people are independent, especially younger generations. And it's because, so many Democrats in places like Kentucky are just like, well, we can't say anything because we don't want to make, the Republicans mad or the centrists mad. But it's like, but what if you did actually say something?
Yeah.
I think that we'd be pleasantly surprised
Mm-hmm.
by the turnout. So it was all out of necessity because this is the time that we need to go in and shake things up, and people want populist policies, and I wasn't seeing that in this race. So I wanted to be that change so others could see that change.
Thank you so much for doing that, knowing that it is, quite a washing machine experience, right? Being a
Yeah,
political candidate. And
brutal.
and you mentioned something that made me think about kind of succession planning and building a
Yes.
bench.
Mhm.
That you said like there wasn't an heir to the seat, and everyone's kind of looking around, and like they're sort of a little sounds like caught off guard with kind of who was gonna be the person to really do this. And we've experienced that in our area of Michigan and Midland County as well, where we're trying really hard to build a bench. But historically, there hasn't been a bench, and so
Mhm.
you have this first sort of wave of, oh my gosh, who's going to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And especially in your seat, which is so critical to the whole country, right? The one that
Yeah.
you're looking at too, so
Yeah,
important.
and the other thing, Sarah, is that I also, the other reason that I really wanted to do this is because I want to try to revitalize and reinvigorate the Democratic Party. Trump won because of Democrats, right? We were not the party that we needed to be at the time that we needed to be at. We were talking at people being like, well, look at this spreadsheet, the stats show. And, we're, trying to, I've heard that people say like, oh, well, Democrats can be too cerebral. You can be too, talk down to people. And listen, I can policy wonk it all day long and I can get really in depth. But at the end of the day, people just want to be listened to, and they just want to make sure that the issues that they're facing every day are being handled, right? And we just became this, this party. I'm mad at my own party, right? If I think we need a freaking hard reset, and we need to kind of light it on fire and start from zero and be okay with, doing a reset of our leadership and revitalizing and changing what our tenets are. Because at the end of the day, the Democratic Party needs to stand for all people, doing the best for all of the people. And we need to find ways to bring the working class back, because that is who we should be standing for. But even the Democratic Party is plagued with issues like big APAC donors and big corporate donors. I was talking to my mom last night and she's like, Chuck Schumer is one of the biggest recipients of health insurance company donor money. Yet he's also saying, oh, well, we need, we need better healthcare. And I was like, well, how can you do this while also being funded by health insurance companies?
Yeah.
We need to be the party that people can trust again, because people want control over their own lives, and we are not providing them that hope that gives it to them. And that's why we don't have a bench, because, the more progressives were leaving for like DSA. Did you know here in Lexington, Kentucky, we have the second fastest growing chapter of DSA in the country?
No doubt.
Wow.
That's Democratic Socialists of America, right? For everybody who doesn't know.
Yep.
No, I know you guys know, but I didn't know for listeners, right?
Yeah, some listeners might not know.
And so that's Zohran Mamdani's party, right? And, there's people who feel left out of that. The number of people who, I was door knocking last weekend and I had neighbors saying, I was a Democrat for 40 years and I just changed to independent because I'm sick and tired of what the Democratic Party is doing. We have to look in the mirror really hard. And if we continue to keep putting candidates forward that the Democratic Party always has, we're going to continue to lose and continue to lose until we make that uncomfortable decision to hard reset and change the direction that we're going in.
Yeah, that's for sure something Sarah and I have talked about personally and on this podcast. Just the corporation money, whether we're talking about out in the open or the dark money that goes into PACs or all that
those
stuff.
LLCs.
Yep, all that stuff. It's damaging to our Constitution. It's damaging to our democracy. It's damaging to our candidates. And some candidates say, well, I can take that money and not say, not do what they want. Well, but we don't know that. How can we trust you to tell us the truth about a situation if you're taking thousands and thousands, sometimes millions of dollars from some corporation or corporations we don't know that you're taking it from? So yeah, I really appreciate when a candidate says they will not take corporate money, they will not take dark PAC money. And also, I know not everybody's going to agree with this, but I think on these, between the three of us, no APAC money.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where people talk about, foreign interference. It's like, I don't, why? It would be similar to, let's take any other country in the world.
Russia.
Right? Let's take Russia. Let's take China. Let's take any other country. There's no other country out there that is dumping that much money and that has the exact same influence of corporate money, right? How can I trust you to make good decisions around healthcare policy if you are being funded by the corporations and the organizations that are profiting off of the current system being broken and taking advantage of people? And it's the same thing for APAC, right? It's like, well, how can I trust that you are going to find an equitable solution that moves forward if you are taking money from the government of Israel, essentially? That just means that you are going to be making votes alongside what they are saying, not what your constituents want.
Yeah.
And look, we have to change the rules of the game too.
Absolutely.
Because
for sure.
We can have our candidates stand in this moral place and then also lose badly from this moral place because the other candidates are not playing by those ethical rules, right? So
Mhm.
like we have one of the things that's happening in Michigan, and I'm not sure about other states, is that we're working on a ballot initiative that will help get this kind of money out of politics, and they're collecting signatures now for that work. But like the thing that I worry about, I believe in this moral position, right? And like I understand as a former candidate, right, the influence of those, especially the dark money packs and all of the things. And the thing that I worry about though is if we're not all playing out by the same rules, then we're going to lose from that place. So we've got to make
Yeah.
sure we use all the influence possible, that we elect people who are willing to go in and shake up the rules, because
Mhm.
that just has to happen. Otherwise we'll keep in this same cycle of not being able to do it.
Well, I mean, I had my 20th high school reunion last November, and I ended up getting drinks with some guys I went to high school with afterwards. And one of them had given me some money. And so he gets my emails and he goes, Erin, you really got to stop like saying this no corporate money thing. Like, you're going to need to take corporate money. And I'm like, listen, I understand that it's part of the system, but I don't believe in that. And I cannot represent myself like that. I'm in this because I want real change. And
Mhm.
maybe you can say that's Pollyanna-ish of me, but I really don't think so. We will continue to push this because it is the right thing to do. And I cannot compromise my morals and my values just to get a nice check. I'm not going to do it. I
Mhm.
am not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, and that's great. Um, so there's like a contentious primary both on the left and the right,
Mhm.
because Andy Barr, as you mentioned, is going to run for Mitch McConnell's seat, which,
Yes.
slight digress here. Um, this is not my question. I have a different question, but could you possibly tell Andy Bashir to please run for Kentucky Senate, or to run as the U.S. Senator from Kentucky? Because I'm like, he's the only Democrat that's won statewide. Why is he not running for this seat? And I
Yeah,
know he wants to be president, I'm guessing, but I
he
really need him
does.
to do this.
And you're not the only one. I think there's a significant amount of people who are disappointed in his decision not to run for Senate, because he could easily have won the Senate seat,
Mm-hmm.
secured a Democrat. Now we've got, I mean, this Senate race is a mess. It's, I mean, I could tell you my thoughts on the candidates. I'm not going to, but it's a circus. It really is.
Yeah.
And especially on the Republican side with Andy Barr just putting disgusting commercials out. And then
Uh,
Elon Musk dumping $10 million into Nate Morris, who's
Ugh.
another billionaire who was like BFFs with, the, Me Too director of Melania, who was also
oh,
one of the friends of Epstein. I mean, it's just disgusting. Like, these people are just unabashed trash.
yeah. That is really unfortunate, and means that some unabashed trash is probably going to the U.S. Senate,
I
unfortunately.
know. And so, yeah, listen, I'm disappointed in that, but sometimes people's own ambitions get in the way.
Yeah.
Yep, unfortunately. So, to my real question,
Sure.
you have a contentious primary on both
Sure.
sides because Andy Barr's not running. What makes you the best Democratic candidate to run as the nominee for the Democratic Party? And also, if for some reason you fall short of winning that race, are you going to support the Democrat that does win?
Yeah, so I'll answer that in the opposite order. I mean, of course, I'll support the Democratic candidate who wins, because at the end of the day, we need this seat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'll tell you why I think I am the person who can deliver this seat, right? Looking at the other candidates, by the way, there's viable ones and unviable ones, right? In the sense that, you're always going to have some randos
Yes.
declare. So there's 7 people on the ballot, but
Oh, wow.
yeah. But really, like, 3 of those showed up at the last minute.
Yeah.
Yes. We've
And there's
recently
really
had a special election with some of that.
Yeah, that's going to happen. So whatever. But actually, back in the early 2000s, I was speaking with one of our former mayors here who ran for this seat for the Democratic nomination. And she was like, yeah, there were 7 of us running then. And like 6 of them were legit.
Mm-hmm.
And so this isn't the most crowded it's been.
Okay.
So I will say that. Now, when it comes to the original question, right? I think that I am the best person to actually be poised to win this seat because I'm the only person who provides a real, true contrast to the GOP candidate. And it gives people something to vote for instead of just something to vote against. I said in the beginning of the podcast, I was the first candidate to actually come out with policy positions. And still, I mean, two of the other folks who, I'm really running against, one of them still doesn't have any policies. Someone called me last night and said, it drives me nuts that he never says anything about any issues, right? And I'm like, we have to make sure that we are the party, again, that is not just anti-Trump, because we all know Trump is trash, that we have to move on from Trump, right? But that's not what people want to hear. People want to know what we are going to do, what we are going to stand for, what kind of representative we are going to be if we do show up in Washington in January, right? And so for me, I am the best choice because I am the progressive. I am the one who will actually fight for populist causes that are impacting people, not just in Lexington, in the blue cities, but also out in Powell County, in Estill County, in rural Anderson County. I am really dedicated to making sure that we pass strong healthcare legislation, that we pass an overturn of Citizens United, that we do things that actually increase the minimum wage and move towards a living wage, that we codify the union's rights to organize. And these are all things that I truly care about, and I have a track record of talking about in a strong and consistent way that people know exactly the way I will vote. I'm also the only person who has outright said I am not taking corporate PAC money, so voters know that they can trust me to answer to them and them only. I am also the only one who's been critical of the Democratic Party and knows that I will not just say whatever DNC or DCCC talking points come out. And number three, I am the only person in my race who has actually built big infrastructure projects, has created hundreds of jobs in dozens of states, and has deep expertise in international relations. Because we have to not just get our own house right, we have to rework the way that we are seen on the global stage, because that impacts our ability to attract quality investment back into the United States, which is going to push jobs forward.
Yeah, that goes back to something I talked on a previous pod about diversity of representation. And that can mean all sorts of things, but it also means diversity of experience, diversity of skills. We need people that can do things that isn't just legislation, because we have people writing legislation that don't know how to do things. So they write legislation.
Staff, right? Like, I'm like, hey, listen, you hire good staff to write legislation, but you need to be the person who's steering that ship.
Yeah.
And I want to try to push us into a bolder, stronger direction. And beyond that, I am the only person with expertise in my race in data centers and energy. And that is a critical looming issue that is going to break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Erin, you're reminding me of just the importance of the primary process for our party, right? Because it's an opportunity for, for all of us, for all of the Democrats who are voting in the party to shape the direction of the party and to pick the candidate that aligns with the direction that aligns best with, the way that we want to go. And of course, we always say, whoever wins, we're going to align behind that person. But what a beautiful process to have these choices and to be able to say, yes, it's someone who's very progressive like Erin. That's the direction of the party. That's the way we want to shape our party going forward. It really, it sort of hurts my heart when I see primary processes get ugly and in the mud, because really it's about not that yours is, but we've seen that sort of across the country.
We're trying to keep it clean. I'll tell you, Sarah. So I've actually been reached out to by some people who are supporting another candidate with dirt on another candidate. And they were like, hey, do you want this? And I was like, no, I'm not running, I'm not running a dirty race.
Dirty, not them.
They want me to get my hands dirty, not their candidate. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. This is nuts. What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Good choice.
It should be about vision and positioning and, having a choice in the party and but also being collegial and aligning afterwards, because we respect the process of voting and choosing, right?
absolutely.
And so I love that. I love that. So here on the pod, we're all about helping traditionally red areas build blue power.
Love it.
And the 2026 Cook Report has moved the district that you're in from a Trump plus 11 in 2024 to a GOP plus 7 in 2026. So like you were seeing that really great movement there toward the blue side of things, like we've seen across the country. It's so exciting. So that's a significant shift for sure. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your plans to close the rest of that gap, right? That 7-point gap that they're saying still exists in your district that has historically voted for Republicans.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so there's a couple of things there. And one is really starting with my personal history. I have not always been a Democrat. I voted for John McCain in 2008. And I'll tell you why, because I did not like this whole kind of like cult of personality-ish sort of campaign that Obama ran. I was like, "Ugh, this feels a little weird to me. Like, I don't know, like, I wanted to trust it, but I didn't trust it, right? So I voted for John McCain. I was a Republican for a few years. I mean, I was a young Democrat in high school. I switched to Republican. And then I switched back to Democrat and I voted for Obama in 2012 because I really liked what he had done, right? And it wasn't because I think he ran against Mitt Romney then, right? And Mitt Romney was like, honestly, like, wouldn't it be great if Mitt Romney were president today? Oh my gosh.
It's so funny how our perspective changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But back then I wasn't like, oh, Mitt Romney's going to ruin us. I was like, no, I mean, I agree with Obama and what he's done and his track record is really good. So I'm going to vote for Obama because of that. And even with McCain, I wasn't like, oh my God, McCain's going to ruin us. I was like, well, McCain is, or I'm sorry, I wasn't like Obama's going to ruin us, right? I'm like, no, I just like his policies better and he has a proven record of doing X, Y, Z. And so one of the things is I'm like, listen, I have voted Republican before. I have been a Republican before. But I think that one of the biggest things too, with my personal experience, is that I have such a strong track record in the private sector. I have helped scale companies. I have helped churn profits. I have helped create jobs, right? And so I'm someone with that deep private sector expertise. And I'm the only one in my race with that who's actually done it on my own. And I've been told by Republicans, they say, and these are even like legislators in Frankfurt who've told me this. They said, I like that you have such strong private sector expertise. So you actually know how the business world works. You're not just someone who's been in government. Like you're not just someone who's like been in the organizing space. I do know how the real world, quote unquote, works and how companies work, right? And what they will do and what they won't do. And so that is something I can come from a very practical experience there. I have been the person who has worked on large scale construction sites too, right? So I was in my steel toes and high vis, right? Worked in places in like Mississippi, Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. I've worked in rural areas and I've worked with laborers and skilled laborers. And those are the kind of people that I'm used to talking to and managing. So I'm not going to just come and talk to them like they're a moral failure and talk about, oh, well, Trump this, Trump that. No, I'm like, let's build wages. Let's build jobs. Let's do the things that you actually care about. Yeah. And that's why I think it's so important that let's be real, like my track record on the campaign trail has not just been anti-Trump. It has been what I want to do for people. And what I want to do for this country and what I want to do for Kentuckians. And to be honest, I think that I can pull in some of those Republicans and a lot of those independents by the fact that I am critical of the Democratic Party. I don't think the Democratic Party is the panacea. I do not think it is the cure-all. I do think that we need to reshape ourselves if we do want to be trusted again. And I think that people do respect that. And the people I've been talking to on the campaign trail have said, you need to talk more about the Democratic Party and how you're mad at them. And I said, I know, and I do, but I think I need to do it even more. And a lot of this also comes from people like my mom and my mom's friends who are Republicans, who are like, Erin, like, you're right. We agree. Like, we don't like Trump either, but the Democratic Party is not doing what it needs to be doing. And so I think that coming at it from a humble perspective, not talking down to people, coming at it from the fact that I do have private sector experience, that I do know how to run a business, that I do know how to invest billions of dollars appropriately, and that I recognize that the government has problems. But I want to use our resources more efficiently. But efficiencies aren't achieved with a chainsaw, they're achieved with a scalpel. And so that's the kind of things that I will want to do. And to close that gap, it's very easy. You talk about those. My campaign slogan is affordability, access, and opportunity for all, making the American dream the American reality again. And that's something that appeals to everyone across the aisle.
I love that. And I totally agree. I think Democrats have to stop running against Trump. Like, we just have to stop
Mhm.
doing that. And we have
Do
to
I
start
make some
running
social
for
media
something.
videos? I make some social media videos
Yeah.
about some of the like policies he puts out, right? Like the dangers of leaving NATO, like the,
Mhm.
the fact that we, kidnapped a dictator of a country expecting massive regime change, which we should never be engaged in regime change because
Yeah.
it does not work. We tried. I mean, look what
They
happened
didn't
with
really do it
Noriega.
anyway.
Also, this was the Noriega. Like, I mean, this was exactly like, oh, let's do this again. But also, I mean, just talking about the Venezuela issue, right? It's like, yes, Venezuela is a problem. However, Maduro cutting off the head of that snake is not the head of the snake.
Yeah.
Like Hugo Chavez has created a huge bench there since the 90s. So Maduro was just like a figurehead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, it's that we have to stop running against Trump because we all know that Trump is bad and what he's doing is bad. And the people who love Trump are going to get even more pissed off.
Yeah.
And those aren't the people I'm trying to sway. I have people who switched from independent to Democrat just so they can vote for me in this election. And the same thing with Republican to Democrat just so they can vote for me.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
Because we have
I
closed
like
primaries, so.
Oh, okay. We have open primaries here in Michigan. But yeah, it's kind of like going back to what you said about giving people something to vote for, not something to vote against. And I think that in red areas, that is something the Democratic Party has failed at, is that and we've recently had, a lot of these conversations, even with our own, members here in Midland, because we're a purple district. Um, and there's factions of us that are like, we need to go progressive, and then there's factions of us that say, no, 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 we have to be more centrist and talk about jobs and blah blah blah. And it's like, progressive doesn't mean social issues. Yes, progressives are more progressive on social issues because we're progressives, but we're also progressive about making sure that people have jobs and supporting unions and healthcare and living wage and like all
Ending
these
private
different things.
prisons.
And
That's
yeah,
right.
like
Yeah.
it's frustrating to me that too many people equate progressivism with social issues, which that's part of it, but we are a fully fledged human being and a fully
Mhm.
fledged portion of the party that can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah, to me, being a progressive means creating a new economic social system that actually works, that has corporations and billionaires paying their fair share, that
Yeah.
creates a living wage, that creates a strong system for jobs and investments. That means investing in clean and renewable energy because we do not have enough energy. And even if you wanted to mine all the coal and take all the gas and the petroleum, we still wouldn't have enough, right? And it's also more expensive. So renewable and carbon-free energy like nuclear just makes economic sense.
Yes.
When I worked in sustainability at Amazon when I helped to build an electric vehicle company, one of the things that we did was we never really talked to people unless they really wanted to talk about it, right? About, oh, this is climate, this is emissions related. No, it has everything to do with this is more efficient use of resources, which means you are going to be able to do more with less and increase your bottom line.
Yep.
And here's an interesting thing. So I was looking at my phone because I wanted to pull something up that my colleague sent me yesterday. So they said that the New York Times did a focus group with Democrats, right, from across the country. We've got, Michigan, Georgia, Wisconsin, Maryland, all over the place, right? And they said, who would you want to vote for, right? A candidate who identifies as a progressive or a candidate who identifies as a moderate? A progressive candidate, everyone raised their hand. A moderate candidate, no one raised their hand.
Wow.
Because you don't know what they stand for.
Yeah.
Because that just means they're going to be a chameleon. That's a dino.
Yep.
That is a Democrat in name only, and it is a Democrat who just wants to get elected and have a political career. It's not someone who actually wants to fight for change.
Yeah, I have to say I agree with a lot of that. You know, we walk a line here because we're a purple district, and
Yeah, we're
we
purple
do
too,
have
but
yeah, like we have moderates that are elected, and we also have a lot of progressives. So it's kind of like, you know, figuring out what fits your district best. But I do think that when you have a progressive that is talking about these issues, they're going to hit um the things that a lot of people want, not just a Democrat. So I think that
yeah.
populist progressives can draw in those independents because so many people are just sick to death of government as usual and they want a big, bold, transformational
Yep.
change, and they're not going to get it with some of the people that have been running.
Yeah, well, they're not going to get it with a moderate, and they're
Yeah.
not going to get it with somebody who doesn't want to actually take a stance on any issues.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
it's like you show who you are now, right? Like running in a primary is really how it should be kind of the boldest version of yourself, because this is trying to get your
That's true.
people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you can temper some of the language in a general, right? I won't necessarily be talking as much about abolishing ICE, right? If I get through the primary, right? But what I will start talking about is what I think meaningful immigration reform looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not changing your views, but changing like the way
The way
that
you talk about
the
them.
emphasis
Mm-hmm.
on different things. And I also think that uh, regular voters don't care about these labels
Yeah.
so much as they care about like, oh, that person is talking to my heart,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
That
these are the
person,
nerds and the wonks that
yeah,
get freaked out by the
exactly. Yeah,
concept of progressive, and they're like,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh no." And I'm like,
yeah.
well, and I'll tell you, and I think this is also a big issue with the Democratic Party is that they have too long focused on consultant speak and, well, the polls say this, and
Yeah,
like, well,
for
this
sure.
survey says this, and I'm like, what if we just talked about the things that people actually care about?
That's right.
Because we don't need to do an expensive study to do that, because people are telling us every single
Yeah.
day what they care about. It's wages, it's jobs, it's the cost of living, it's making sure that their
Mm-hmm.
government actually serves them and that they can trust that the benefits that they rely on are going to be there. It's making sure that we actually treat veterans with dignity and make sure that we tell them that, hey, you sign up to give your life away to your country, well, we're going to hold up our end of the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's those are the kind of things that people care about. And I don't need to be lectured by, somebody coming from, the DNC to say, oh, well, these are the things that we need to be talking about. I'm
Ooh,
like, well,
yeah.
where did this get you
Yep.
last time?
And these are the
Mm-hmm.
words you need to be using to talk about them because we poll tested them to death. And we have a candidate here in Michigan running for the U.S. Senate who's very progressive. His name is Abdul Al-Said. Really great. We had him on the pod a couple of months ago, and he talks about this issue. And what I like about what he says is we need to really be focusing on and projecting our values and our like vision for the future based on what we know and hear from people. That's where we should be standing, not
Mm-hmm.
standing looking back retroactively to say, what is the little slice of thing that I can say that will piss off the least amount of people when I say it, right? People want that like vision. He talks about like having a vision for something that is maybe people don't even know, right? Like that's a thing because they haven't thought about it yet. But people are very hungry for that. And what the Democratic Party tends to do is deliver up these like, lukewarm ideas
Mm-hmm.
that are just kind of like, the least controversial
Yeah.
possible, using the words that have been poll tested
Mm-hmm.
to use. And we don't need that anymore in this country. We
Yeah.
need we need we need vision, we need realness from our political candidates.
Well, and the other thing I will say too is that we also need to stop talking down to rural populations and
Mm-hmm.
telling
Yes.
them that, well, you all keep voting against your interests. And it's like, well, let's look in the mirror. All right. Have we actually been delivering on what they want? Have we actually been listening to them? Because talking down to people, and especially trying to make people who live in like poor areas that have been taken advantage of over and over again to say, like, well, this is all your fault, is ridiculous. It's absurd. And frankly, it's rude. And it's one of these things where, um, oh gosh, even Obama really jacked something up when he said people clinging to their guns and religion. And I'm like,
Mm.
listen, a lot of people in my district are, they are Christian, they're lawful gun owners. And we can't be high and mighty about like
Mhm.
our way of life over theirs, because that is their way of life. And I respect people who are involved in their church, and if their faith is something that's important to them, we acknowledge that. But
Yeah.
then we say, hey, listen, what are the things that we really care about? We really care about making sure that you can go to the grocery store and feed your family. And we really want to make sure that there are enough grocery stores so that you can actually not have to drive 30, 45 minutes to get to a grocery store, that we do what is necessary to bring back investments in, corner stores, and revitalize some of these small towns and these small mountain towns or these rural areas to bring more jobs in. And you know how we're going to do that? We're going to make sure that there is a really quality public option for healthcare, because I know that healthcare is one of the big things that stops people from being entrepreneurs because they can't afford
Mhm.
it. And we're also going to work to give grants to make sure that companies are incentivized to start things like small grocers or businesses that really serve their local communities. That's what we want to do. Don't yell at people for saying, "Oh, well, why do you, care about your church and your guns?" That
Mhm.
is not the issue that's going to push us forward. And that is an issue that we do not need to be fighting. We need to realize that we don't have all the answers, but the answers that we can bring them are ways to meaningfully improve their lives so they can continue to live their lives and build up their communities in the ways that they know how.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's something I learned just on a personal experience. I have a nephew who loves to mud with trucks. And I am not a
It's
mudding
fun.
and trucking type of girl. You know what I mean? Like, and like he's got property, and he does this whole thing every fall when it gets really rainy and nasty, and has a whole family come over. And I have stopped going because it's cold and I don't like to be outside. but
Fair.
but like the rest of the family goes and they just have a fun time. And like I like sat down with myself and I'm like, stop judging him for this. He enjoys it. What, it's not hurting you. It's like, I was kind of in this like, oh, reading books is the proper way to use your free time. And
Have
I just
y'all
had to
ever
really,
been to a monster truck show?
I haven't,
Yes.
I'm just
It's
not a
fun
truck
as
person.
Yeah.
hell.
Never
Loud.
will
So
be.
loud.
Yes. But
But
I
really
am,
fun.
but yeah, like I had to remind myself not to judge people because of what they like, guns, God, like that sort of, whatever. Like that's their life. That's their culture. That's okay. And in turn, I hope they don't judge me because I like to read books and watch British dramas.
Exactly. Right. It's like
But
I yeah, it's listen, I grew up on a farm. I have blown things up with guns before. It is very
me
fun.
too. Yeah, we're a gun family, so yeah, no judgment there anyway.
It's a lot of fun. But do I think that we need AR-15s in the street? No. Also, do
Precisely.
I think
Yeah.
that
No,
there should
also.
be, clear checks on deadly weapons? Yes, and clear trainings on deadly weapons?
Yes.
Yes. But I'm not going to be like, okay, we're going to take all your guns. Because
Yes.
that's just not the way of life that people have out here. That's just
Hmm.
not what it is.
All right. So on to an extremely
Yeah.
important question. Um, I know what this is, although I only recently learned. You are a Kentucky colonel.
Oh,
And I knew this before I started researching you, but it's only been within the last couple of months that I even knew a Kentucky colonel existed and what that signifies. So I'm guessing a lot of our listeners do not know. Can you
I
please
don't
tell
know.
us, Sarah doesn't know,
I do
what
not
is a
know.
Kentucky colonel and what did you do to earn such an honor?
yeah, absolutely. So the Kentucky Colonel is it's an honorific given to people by the governor. You get essentially nominated by other colonels. Tennessee has one as well. It's called Tennessee Squires.
Oh, I didn't know
Um,
that.
yeah, and so Colonel Sanders was a Kentucky colonel. He was not a colonel in like the army. He was
Okay.
not. That's what Colonel Sanders is. He was like he's a colonel. He's a Kentucky colonel.
Okay.
But what a Kentucky colonel is, it rewards people and it bestows this honorific title for people who have done a lot to contribute to Kentucky and be good ambassadors of Kentucky. And so when I was living in DC, I mean, the number of people around the country and especially in DC who have me saved in their phone as Erin Bourbon or Erin Kentucky is significant. And so, I mean, I spent my whole time in DC being an ambassador of Kentucky, notably as part of the leadership of the Kentucky Society of Washington, which is the unofficial embassy of Kentucky in DC. We do derby parties every year. We have a scholarship fund. We do the inaugural balls, one of the best ones. Unfortunately, the last two I've had to work on were Trump's, but because the Biden one we had to cancel because it was COVID. Um, but I got to do one Obama one, which was nice. And it's about, it shows that you are a person who has done something positive for the state of Kentucky in whatever capacity you have done it in. So for example, if you become an Eagle Scout in Kentucky, you automatically become a Kentucky Colonel.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's, certain things that go along with that. But between my promoting of the bourbon industry, so I've been a writer talking about bourbon for over, for about 15 years. I'm on the board of Bourbon Women. I help revitalize some of the chapters in Bourbon Women and really kind of push us into the future, increasing our membership. I got the Kentucky Society through COVID. I've been just someone who, I'm a daughter of the American Revolution, and I'm a founding member of a chapter in DC. And so that's all through my heritage in Kentucky. So it was a confluence of things. But it's been my long time proven record of being a strong ambassador and advocate for Kentucky wherever I go.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. Okay, so one final kind of somewhat serious question,
Sure.
and then just a fun one to end us. So as I mentioned, this is still a GOP leaning district, and it's trending, like some really positive trends in the blue direction. I wonder if you could just give us a sense of what you're hearing on the ground in your district from voters. And like with that sort of learning from talking with people on the ground, what are some essential learnings that you might share with other folks in other traditionally red areas who are trying to make a difference in their communities?
Yeah. So, every time I'm on the phone with people, especially during like call time, right? I make sure to take notes of things that people say that really stick out to me, right? And I was talking to a guy in Flemingsburg earlier this week, and he said, we need to be, Democrats have to win this, because this was his quote. They, meaning Republicans, could give a shit less about the poor guy.
Mm.
And we have to be the party that actually does give a shit for the poor guy. And something that someone here in Lexington said to me yesterday was, I really want to get back to normal, getting back to caring for each other. That's normal for me. And so these two things really come together. We have to be out there and just act like not act like we care, show that we care.
Yes.
Show that we're listening, not that we are pushing things on people, not showing that like, oh, I'm smarter because I have a master's degree. No, we are all masters of our own lives and know what we are talking about when it comes to the things that impact us. And we have to be our ears open and listen more than we talk. But we also have to make sure that we are self-critical. And I think that, there's a lot of people out there who said, yeah, but Democrats didn't do X, Y, and Z. And we have to not defend ourselves, but acknowledge and say, yes, you are right. And that's why we want to change things. And then also at the end of the day, it comes back to the concept of affordability, access, and opportunity, which is what my entire platform is. I had a guy, an African-American gentleman in Montgomery County, who said to me, my wife is a huge fan of yours. He said that, Erin, you're focusing on restoring what the American dream means has really resonated with me and a lot of people I know, because that is something that is tangible. It's something palpable. It's something we can all relate to. And so you just have to get back to the basics and talk to people about the things that really impact their lives, and not say like, well, we need to restore foreign policy. If people want to talk to me about foreign policy, oh, like strap in, I'll talk to you all day long. But, but if people say, well, Erin, like, why are we doing XYZ in Ukraine? I'm like, well, I'm happy to talk to you about that, right? And, there's things like, I can talk to them about safety, but I can also talk to them about things like, well, Ukraine is one of the number one manufacturers of wiring harnesses for vehicles. So if we want to make sure that we are investing in things like American made, like cars, one of the key inputs that goes into those cars comes from Ukraine. And so we need to make sure that we are also, ensuring those supply chains are there so that we
Mhm.
can continue to bring in new investment and new jobs and good skilled jobs for people here in Kentucky, right? So if you have to make sure that you are able to tie those things in or say, hey, listen, we need to reduce tariffs because it's causing you to spend more at the grocery store, right? I think I think the number is it's $1,000 more a year that people are paying because of tariffs. And people, especially in rural areas, they don't have an extra $1,000 to
That's right.
spend. Like
Yeah.
They do
most
not.
people don't have an extra $1,000 to spend. So it's really making sure that you're bringing it home to the things that actually impact them.
Mhm. It's kind of like an issue, using Ukraine or affordability or whatever it is the issue you're talking about. It's a room and it has 100 different doors on it, and every door is going to fit somebody differently, and you got to find the right door that helps them get into the issue. It doesn't mean you're lying to them. It doesn't mean, whatever. It's like it's still a part of the issue, but one person's going to care about it from this angle and another person's going to care about it from this angle, so you got to find the right one for the right person.
That's exactly right. And there was somebody who asked me a question. This was an organization it's the Peaceful Bluegrass Resistance. So they do a lot of like protesting and they're like all very policy wonks. And one of them said, Erin, well, you're talking about all these things and you're clearly like well versed on all these different topics and can get deep, right? But how do you talk to people in rural areas? And I said to her, well, again, you just talk to them about the things that they actually care about, right? That's why, again, my campaign is affordability, access, opportunity. And, if they are farmers, I can talk to them about, what we need to do to start investing in farming. And it doesn't just have to do with tariffs, right? Because that's something that's an immediate burn, right? But there are other systemic challenges such as, access to grants and loans and markets. But then I went home and I was talking to my mom about it. And my mom said, what do you mean? Like, how do you talk to rural people? The same way you talk to urban people. Like, it's the
They're just
same.
people.
Yeah.
And that I was like, I knew that in my heart, but the way that she just said it so like, and
Yeah.
she's been a Republican a long time. She's now a Democrat because she can't stand this. But I was like, you're totally right. And that's going to be how I answer that question because they're people. And the challenges that urban populations experience are the exact same with some small differences as rural populations. Food deserts, affordability, housing access to jobs. I mean, it's all the same. They can't get good health care in urban areas, like especially like poorer urban areas. And it's the same for people in rural areas.
Yeah.
The solutions are a little different, but
That's
the
right.
problems are still the same.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Poor folks have the same issues regardless of where you live.
Yeah.
And we're all way closer to being poor than we are to being rich.
That's right.
1,000%.
No doubt. That's what I'm loving about what you're saying is with this advice for like local activists across the country. Like this is true. This is not just true in Kentucky. This is not just true in Michigan. Our listeners are a lot of folks who are trying to just start to flip the script and build blue power locally. And these are issues that are this advice of just really understanding your people, speaking to them, not talking down to them. All of those things is, this is across our whole country. Great advice for anyone who's doing this work. That's awesome. Okay, so here's our fun question. So it's our tradition on this pod to always end with a fun question that helps our listeners get to know us a little bit better or differently. So here's my question. So Erin, you're known as the bourbon lady. Is that right?
Yeah.
The bourbon
Yeah.
woman?
Bourbon lady. Yeah.
Bourbon lady. So my question for you all and me as well is, what's your current drink of choice? Could be alcoholic or non-alcoholic, but when you get to the end of a busy day, either you're sitting down to, a fluffy TV show or you're out for dinner or drinks with your friends. What are you going to be ordering? What's your drink of the day? And if you have a story behind it or there's a reason why, then I'd love to hear that too. What's your drink of choice?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm someone who's a cocktail nerd too. So it just depends. Like I made a martini last night, but honestly, it's usually probably going to just be an old fashioned. The old fashioned is the classic cocktail. I've written a 5,000 word treatise about the ultimate guide to the old fashioned. The old fashioned has an incredible history that's also steeped in Black history. By the way, Google Tom Bullock.
Yeah.
He's the one who really put it back on the stage. So it's especially pertinent to February, in which we are recording this. And it's also how I chose to launch my campaign.
I was wondering if you're going to bring this up. I was going to if you didn't.
Yeah, so my campaign launch video is me making an old fashioned and talking about the needs of Kentucky and what I wanted to do for Kentucky and why I was entering this race. Because the old fashioned is made of 4 different ingredients. It's sugar, water, bitters, and spirits. And so, all of those things, those are 4 core things that on their own could be, bitter, it could be too sweet, it could be, diluting, it can be too hot, but come together, it's something beautiful and balanced and something that you keep going back to over and over again. But with the caveat that something so simple is something that gets screwed up a lot. It's really easy to make a bad one, but it's also really easy to make a good one. And so what we've seen is with the Democratic Party, it's clearly easy to do the bad thing, but it's also, if we just stick by our guns and stick by what we know is true, it's really easy to make it good again.
To make it good. Oh my gosh.
And reliable and something you keep coming back to over and over again.
That's so awesome. And Erin, you're not going to believe this, but my drink was going to be the old fashioned too. And I didn't know that that's how you launched your campaign. But I love the story you're telling about that. The reason I picked old fashioned, and I do order it often, 2 reasons. One, it was my father-in-law's favorite drink. And he passed away about 10 years ago. He was a very strong Republican Catholic person, but also very smart and very kind. And I often wonder what he would do in this new era of the Republican Party. He was old-fashioned. Like, he was old-fashioned. We would tease him all the time that was his favorite drink because it fit him so well, just the name of it. But I hold on to his memory in a lot of ways because he knew where I stood and I knew where he stood on all of the issues, and it was almost always the opposite, but we still loved each other very much and respected each other in our viewpoints. And I wish we could get back to some of that these days. The other reason the old fashioned is important to me, and it's so wonderful that this is your drink too. So I, a couple, 7 or 8 years ago, I was on this work team that is just like the most amazing work team I've ever been on. We were a group of folks doing HR work for a big nonprofit, and we adopted a team drink. And among other things, we had a team hashtag and a team superpower and all of that stuff. But the team drink was the old fashioned. And so whenever we were together, we would order that drink together and toast. And also to this day, when any of us are out, and we order one, we take a picture and we send it to our group chat and toast each other. But I love this idea that there are these different pieces of this drink, and together it's beautiful, but anyone on its own, needs some help. So that's how a great team operates as well. And we were a great team. So I'm going to share that anecdote with them today as well. But thank you for that.
Beautiful.
That is so cool. I love that. I wasn't part of the team until later in Sarah's last campaign. So I didn't know old fashioned was the drink. And
that's a different work. That's a different team.
Oh, that was a different. So it wasn't the
this
campaign.
Is a work
okay.
Team. Yeah,
then I'm I'm understanding that that's why I didn't know about it. But I've never had an old fashioned. Don't hate me.
What? No, this is not. Why would I hate you? This is an opportunity. This is an incredible opportunity to introduce you to something so beautiful.
Well, actually, so here's the thing. So my go-to drink lately has been an espresso martini. Solid. And I would get them when we would go out. We were having our weekend, Sarah, the one that we had, I don't know, when was it? It was in January, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I brought espresso martinis, but in a can. And they were terrible. Yeah. And there's still some of them in my fridge. And I keep trying to drink them to convince myself that it's going to be okay. They are not. I'm done
It does
with
not
them.
spark joy. Do not drink it.
It does not spark joy anymore. So they are ruined for me. Our favorite bartender, Mitch, did make me a chocolate cherry martini the other day, which was delicious, but he's the only one in Midland that makes them. So I don't think that it's going to be my go-to drink. So I've kind of fallen back onto my late harvest Riesling glass of wine. That's like, I just love those. But I may have to try an old fashioned and see if that's going to be my next go-to drink.
You should. And if you ever find one, sometimes different cocktail bars will do like a coffee style old fashioned too.
Oh,
So you can use different kind of bitters. And the beautiful thing about the old fashioned is there is the classic version, but it is a beautiful palette, right? It's really a plug and play. So it's, spirit, sugar, water, bitters, but you can mess with spirit, you can mess with the type of sugar. So you could use molasses, sorghum, you could do an infused syrup, you could do agave, you could do bitters. There's so many different flavors of bitters. It's not just Angostura or Peychaud's or orange bitters. It's black walnut bitters. It's chocolate bitters. It's cherry, peach. Like there's so many different options. Saffron, Earl Grey. And then so there's so many different. And on the spirit side, you can do bourbon, you can do rye, but you could also do cognac. You could do mezcal. You could do like a Oaxacan old fashioned. You can do all kinds of different iterations. So you can just choose your own adventure.
Okay. Next time we go out, Sarah, I am going to try one, but I'm going to ask specifically for Kentucky bourbon. I feel like I owe that to you, and I'll let you know what I think.
Yeah.
Great.
Sounds good. Maybe tomorrow night, Jennifer, or Saturday, we can
Send me a
have
picture.
Old fashioned.
I will, please.
Awesome. Erin, thank you so much for joining our
you.
pod today and for giving us your time and for our listeners to hear from you and learn from you. Wondering if you wanted to share how folks can find out more about you and your campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. You can head to erinpetrey.com. That's ERINPETREY.com. I'm on every single social media site except True Social because obviously.
That's the one we're not on either.
I know, right? I have a Substack, which I do at least once a week. I also do some longer policy forms there. And then, of course, if you'd like to support my campaign, you can always head to erinpetrey.com and smash that donate button because I'm not getting any fancy money from, billionaires and corporations. And this is all completely grassroots for people who want to try to reimagine what we can be, not just as a Democratic Party, but as a government for the people.
Awesome.
Well, we will be watching that 6th district. I am so excited. I really hope it gets flipped. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
We feel good about it.
And best of luck on your campaign and on your elections coming up. And thank you to all of our listeners for joining us for this conversation today. This is the Beyond Resistance Pod, where we share hard-won insights to build blue power in red communities and start winning. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody. You can listen to the Beyond Resistance podcast on all major platforms. Leave us a review to boost this episode and help us reach more blue dots and red seas. Follow us on social media and like, share, comment to increase our reach. Subscribe to our Patreon and gain access to our private Discord channel and make monetary donations of support through Venmo. You can find all of this and more at beyondresistancepod.com. Beyond Resistance is a Beyond Resistance LLC production. Producers Jennifer Austin and Sarah Schultz. Editing Jennifer Austin. Theme song We Run the Room by Shadow Kitten.